Do your parents treat you like crap? Do they not care when you have boundaries? Are they mean and rude to you? Well, guess what? DNA is not a life sentence. You're no longer a helpless child that has to put up with their bullshit. You're an adult now, and you can take a leadership role in the relationship, and you can make requests and have preferences and state them and expect that your parent respects that and cares about that. And if they don't, do not have to associate with them. You don't. A lot of people deal with their disrespectful parents by moving far away from them. But with other parents, it's not that easy. If you have an emotionally immature parent, you just have to recognize that they do not have the kind of empathy or relationship skills for what is necessary for a respectful relationship. Like they just don't have that skill set. They're not going to be able to do it. They can't seem to imagine the feelings of their adult children. They will resist your attempts to set boundaries in the relationship. They use guilt to force closeness with you, and your requests for more space and respectful treatment will fall on deaf ears. They will intrude upon your personal life by pushing opinions when none are asked. They will enter without knocking, tell you what you're doing wrong, giving you unwanted gifts, for example. These are all entitled acts. And you may not even recognize these annoying behaviors as disrespectful boundary violations. You may instead feel guilty for, why do I want to avoid my parents? As a mother and as a grandmother myself, I realized that I want a relationship with my children where they want to spend time with me. So I, you know, you are allowed to have that too, that your parents act in a way that you want to spend time with them. I always say when a child doesn't want to spend time with their parents, something went wrong with the parent. The parent did something wrong, bad, because otherwise your children will naturally want to be with you. Not all the time, but they will enjoy your company. So if you don't enjoy your parents' company, it's probably because they're rude, entitled, condescending, judgmental, controlling, disagreeable, in some way unpleasant. So you got to honor that emotion and just realize that there's nothing wrong with you. If confronted, emotionally immature parents will discount your distress by claiming there's no reason to be upset with them. So they gaslight you, they discount your feelings, just like they've always done. Do I sound mad? Yeah, I think it's crappy of them. Crappy, there's no excuse for discounting the feelings of your child. They will discount them. They see themselves as interested, loving, and only trying to help. But the fist in this velvet glove is the ironclad feeling that you belong to them, as if you were an extension of the parents. And they try to control you with critical comments about anything that does not put the parents' feelings first. My dad stopped talking to me because I wrote the fuck list. That's an example. Of course, he's not hounding me or harassing me, but emotionally immature, for sure. You should have been proud of me. Modern communication skills, or whatever you might have learned about how to communicate, or whatever you might want to try, are no match for someone who does not want to hear the word no. No match. DNA is not a life sentence. Your parents' gift of life may have brought you here, but you do not belong to your parents for the rest of your life. We all get to grow up and leave home. If your parents are not willing to play nice, you don't have to spend time with them. You can always honor them from a distance. And as I like to say, parents are as parents, we're in absolute control of our children. We can abuse that power. It's a power, and that power can be abused by trying to control the child. But guess what? As adults, that power is something that we give them subconsciously. I was still in my 50s when I was still afraid of my dad. I'm like, why am I afraid of my dad? I'm in my 50s. I'm an independent woman. I've had a family. You know, so you got to be aware of where we are trapping ourselves into these preset behaviors. Because the reason I was afraid of my dad is because if he gets impatient, he would just kind of yell out a little bit. You never knew when he was going to yell out. And I like things peaceful. I don't like people just getting irate, you know, so like that. And so I don't have to be around people like that. You know, we're adults now, and even with my adult children, I have a different kind of relationship with them now. I listen a lot more to their input, to their ideas, and they're no longer my little kids. We're equals now. Now let's talk about boundaries. Emotionally sensitive and empathic people who were raised by an emotionally immature parent can find it hard to set boundaries. Is that you? When we care about other people's feelings, we often feel guilty about giving limits because we know they're not going to like them, and we get very uncomfortable when other people get upset by our decisions. You might worry that saying no will make you appear unkind, selfish, or rejecting. But really, a boundary is just a positive way of creating space for yourself. It's just you stating your preferences. It's nothing more than being honest about what you need to feel safe and to feel comfortable. So, setting small boundaries, if you're early in a relationship with someone, and I'm fighting the sunset here, it's really important to give small boundaries to people to test them. How are they going to handle your no? How are they going to handle your boundary? Because these are emotionally intimate communications. A good relationship candidate will enjoy hearing about your limits as a way of knowing more about you. They will honor that. Your honesty will be appreciated. Some people are going to have problems with that. Those are people to avoid. Also notice when you're emotionally fatigued. And being emotionally fatigued could be a sign that you are tiptoeing around someone, trying to please someone, that you're not able to be yourself, that you're around energy that's bringing you down. And it could have been going on for a few years. If you're always feeling tired, ask yourself, you know, what in your life could be bringing your energy down. Just ask your body and just kind of listen. You can get tired out by other people, especially if they don't really listen to you. Now, one way that you can get some power back in your relationships is by being a leader in your relationship and just kind of expressing to people what you want. So let's go through some examples of that. Because emotionally immature parents have taught their children to follow them without question. So you may have been trained to be very passive in your relationship. And I am going to take the lead now and move into some better lighting. All right, let's continue. So if we wait for people to guess our needs, our relationships will fall apart. So it's better that we tell people what we want them to do. And this is where I like this part of the book because she gives actual examples, and that's so helpful to me as to like what to say. So for example, if someone is barking orders at you, you could say, I'd love to help you and I'd love for you to ask me nicely. Or if someone is mocking other people's political views, you might say, I think it's perfectly fine when people see things differently. It's interesting to hear both sides. A relationship leader can even go a step further by offering ideas for how relationships can be more rewarding for both parties. So for example, people who annoy you by coming by whenever they feel like it, you might say, please call before you come to see if I'm up for a visit. Instead of like, don't come by, I need to know when you're coming, I don't like it when you come by, you know. Just make a request. Please come by. Please call before you come to see if I'm up for a visit. Or you could say, Getting a heads up is nice in case someone's in the middle of something. Or you could say, visits are more fun when both people are ready to socialize. Now let's go through some other examples for coworkers. Let's say that a coworker keeps coming in, yap, when you're just trying to work. So you could lead the relationship by saying, to be good coworkers, we have to give each other time to get things done. Let me get back to you when I'm able to talk. Or if you have a friend who's angry, you could say, I am sorry you're upset and I hope we can resolve this. It's good that you can be honest with me. So, if someone unjustly accuses you of malevolent intent, you might say, that's not how I meant it, and follow up with, let's check in with each other before assuming the worst. Or if someone has been holding a grudge against you, you could say, things work better if we clearly tell each other why we're upset. And since parents are accustomed to being the authority figures, it also often falls to the child to lead the way to a more equal and respectful adult relationship. So if a parent tries to give you advice, you could say, well, that's a good idea, Mom, but it's important for me to think this through for myself. If a parent gets angry and speaks harshly, you can be the leader by saying, I expect you to control yourself. We are two grown adults now. How are we going to have a good adult relationship with you talking to me like that? Okay, now this is going to be super hard, and I read these all because I think it's really helpful when we hear examples of how we can talk to people, especially if we never hear this where it's like, we can string words together like that and say that, like I can say that. And sometimes you might have to brace yourself because, see, a lot of people, when you give them these preferences and say, I'd like to know when you're coming by to make sure I'm up for a visit. Someone that's used to just dropping by is going to get very upset because you're taking away their rights, you know? They feel like you're taking something from them. So they might just kind of test you. So you have to just stay firm in that because the purpose of a boundary is not a wall. A boundary is, maybe there should be a better way to express this, like sharing who you are and what you need, sharing your needs and your wants. And people who deserve to be in our life have to care about what we need and what we want. You know, when I got divorced, I made myself a promise that I will never again date a guy who doesn't care how I feel. But how can people know how I feel if I don't tell them? And telling people how I feel is not about ranting at them, yelling at them, or going off on them, or calling them names. It's that kind of stuff. Like, this is what I need. This is what's important to me. And that can scare some people off. Good. Let's get those people out of our lives. DNA is not a life sentence. And we get to choose who's in our life. And I also made another decision. I've stopped talking to most of the people in my family. Because, you know, you get to the point in your life, usually in your 40s or 50s, where you're like, I'm just done dealing with the bullshit that these people throw at me. They're unreliable, they're impulsive, they're loudmouth, they're grandiose, and I'm tired of trying to hold space for that. I don't want to, you know, go do your fucking therapy and then come back and let's get along. You don't care about my boundaries. You go off on me whenever you want. And, you know, like in my family, I was like, I'm the oldest one of all the kids. And like the more stable one, everyone would come to me like I was the peacemaker. Not constantly. It would happen only once every few years. But I kind of took on that role as the oldest sister. Everyone looked up to me. And, you know, I was the one who was stably married. But I decided, you know, let them go to therapy. None of them have gone to therapy. No one in my family has gone to therapy. So that's the other thing. Anyway, so I just wanted to say we're not obligated to have relationships with the people in our family. It's a choice that we get to make. A lot of people are not aware that it's a choice. It feels very trapping and very rigid, but it's a choice. We get to decide who we're in relationship with. We can practice saying these things. And just because, you know, it's always the people that don't want to work on stuff that are the problem. So when I ask people, oh, when people tell me they have a problem with their relationship, I'm like, well, have you and your wife gone to therapy? Oh, no, she won't go. She refuses to go. Okay, then I already know she's the problem. It's the person who doesn't want to go to therapy that's the problem. Because they're already saying, I do not want to look at myself. Now, I'm not saying that people should go to lifelong therapy, but I'm saying if there's a problem in a relationship, it's really good to go to someone who is like a good therapist to help you figure out, reframe something, show a different point of view, shed the light on something like a pattern, and wake some people up. Especially grandiose, belligerent people need to be woken up. And sometimes the person who is more introspective needs to be told, you're not crazy for thinking that you deserve to be treated with respect. You're not being treated with respect. It makes sense that you're angry. Sometimes people just need to have an outside party affirm that how they're feeling is okay. There's nothing wrong with them. So I think therapy is really good for these short type of things when situations get difficult in one's life or relationships are difficult. And sometimes you just go for a few sessions or a few months and then you're done. So that's my view of good therapy. And good therapy, in my view, it's not talk therapy. It's also like inner child work, somatic experiencing. It involves the feeling level too, and also cognitive behavioral therapy. To just sit there and talk about your problems, that's not therapy. That's staying stuck, and that's why some people will say, like the crappy childhood fairy. For years she went to therapy and she was just like not getting any better. She would just feel more upset after. So after a therapy appointment, you should feel better. You should feel lighter. If you feel worse, it was not good therapy. There are a lot of bad therapists out there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. And just remember, you didn't choose who you were born to, but as an adult, you get to choose who's in your life.